Yes, Sumit, I can see your screen.
Okay, okay, perfect. Thanks. Okay, so yes, welcome everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Maybe I guess after a break of around a week or so, maybe we are again back continuing on the rap thing that we started. So we'll just go through a bit of a recap, a flashback, because maybe I guess we had a break in between, and then we'll continue with the topics that we were discussing. Okay. So, okay, okay, perfect. So as a part of last session, what we were discussing is that in rap we have managed and unmanaged scenario both. But when it comes to manage, we understood that the standard REST API capabilities are being taken care by standard framework, standard ref framework. But when it comes to let's just say unmanaged scenario, we know that those are the things are not supported out of the box. I can say fully, but to some extent they are also supported. But uh, whenever we see that the business logic is going to come into picture, that layers openness has now increased. So in manage, we see that the business logic over here was something we were let's just say allowing the developer to do over here. In case of unmanaged, we are expecting that we'll have some existing business logic. That's what we are trying to utilize. That's why we would have opted for an unmanaged scenario. The idea is that we would like to ensure that the kind of framework that we choose for our implementation minimize the efforts, minimize the rewriting of the logic as much as we can. So in case of unmanaged, what would be the choosing criteria? If you do have some sort of already available logic that we are trying to utilize, then we'll go with a unmanaged scenario. The moment we do that, our create, update, delete, which was working out of the box, definitely will not be supported. But rather, our read and query are still supported in one or another way. When it comes to draft capability, the most of the create, update, delete is something that you will see working, provided the data is into draft. Read and query are something for which we might have to do some additional thing, but that's something we also found. Now, we also discussed when we can use what. When we develop a BO, we also understood that the flow in which we'll be going. What is a reusable one that we utilize from the rep? The one which we utilize from rep, and maybe the one which we the manage rep, and the one which we have to generate for an unmanaged specifically. Okay, one sec. Why Ikan is facing some issue while joining? Okay, let's just retry. Maybe he has some network issue. Okay, fine. Okay. Post which what we did is we tried understanding certain thing, saying when it comes to let's just say some sort of unmanaged scenario. Let's just take an example and utilize, I can say, design the framework in a way that unmanaged scenario can be implemented. The moment we do that, we understand that we have to create a rep specific view. We created our views over here, and it gave us a class called unmanaged implementation class over here. The only difference you will see in manage and unmanage is visually a keyword unmanaged over here. At the same point in time, persistent table won't be specified. It would be that in case you are having a draft capability, you will see the draft table available over here, or I can say you would have specified over here. Uh, hey guys, just a minute. Okay, I'm just trying to pull in Akansh. Maybe he is facing some issue. Okay, I think there should not be any issue from my end anyway because you guys are already in. But let's just say next time maybe when you see a, let's just say, admit request from Akansh, can one of you just admit? Maybe you would have, you might be seeing the button as well to admit, just to ensure that maybe he's not locked out. Okay, so I'll go back over here. So post which what we understood is that all the rest of the things which were working will work the way they were working in manage. Like for example, static field control, the capabilities that we specified, association, draft capabilities, and mapping and everything. But when we tried consuming it, we found that these capabilities are just for namesake. We did not find that they were working. So what we realized is that when we created an unmanaged implementation class, it came up with a multiple methods. Over here, we'll see in the handler, we'll have a on top of the normal methods, which you will see appearing in your manage scenario. You will see a method like create, update, delete, read. For all the operation, you will have one method. Now, the purpose of the method and what you should be writing in the method should be quite clear. Okay, so for example, if I say that I would like to save something, right? So in case of a create or update or delete any method should only be used to save the buffer, or I can say update the buffer data. Post which the purpose of the, I can say the actual activity of saving or updating the DB should be done by the so-called save sequence. So we'll go over here and you will see that there is something called LSC class. You might also put a cursor over here and you will see HC class, which is handler class. SC is nothing but a save class. Here, this save method is something that you will utilize for that. That's something we also did. In order for us to get the feeling of a unmanaged implementation, we also created so-called API class, where we have all the logic to push the data into buffer during the actual create, update, delete call. At the same point in time, we also had a saver class, which are to save the records. Plus, we also started utilizing the unmanaged numbering, sorry, I can say late numbering over here to add a new number whenever a record is under creation. And that's where we utilize the adjust number. Now we understood that adjust number just have a map over here in the input. We are not getting anything. So we tried linking the particular map parameter, whatever we were pushing. And that's where we use a set map and get map method. That's something we created. So let's see what is the status of my adjust number method. Seems the things are good over here. We have, let's just say, get the map parameter that we set earlier in the method. Plus, we are trying to loop onto the map parameter. And then we are getting the next travel ID. We are updating the buffer that we had and we are mapping it back. Now, if I just go over here in my application, okay, the one which I had opened, let's see. Okay, yeah. Hey, hi, Akansh. Since you're finally in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hi, hi.
Good. Hi. Okay, so we are just going through the recap, so you have not missed anything. Don't worry. And yeah, in case you also have any doubt, maybe you can also share. So now what we are discussing is the in the last session till the unmanaged numbering that we covered. Let's see how it's working out. I'll just click on go over here. And what we have over here is around 4136 record created. I'll click on create. Okay, we see that the number is read only, right? Because we don't want it to be created by anyone else. I'll just pass some number. Okay, and I'll try to, let's just say, click on create. And we see the 4137 got created because of the adjust number. Okay, because we created a, a late numbering capability over here, which ultimately force us to create a adjust number method. We redefined it, and finally that particular method is being used in order for us to generate a new number and pass it on. The thing that we should be focusing on while we are using a adjust number over here, that's something which is also quite important. Saying adjust numbers parameters over here are changing. Okay, it means we expect this particular variable to be changed by our method itself in order for new number to be passed on. Plus the observation, the behavior that we observed over here is that the map parameter was not giving you anything into the input while the method is being invoked. So we have to get the map parameter. That's where we were setting the linkage somewhere. Okay, like be it in a create, update, wherever the operation is being done, we were saving that linkage. On top of it, when I say I am over here and I would like to generate a new number, we are talking about some primary key. Which one it is? Travel ID. So for example, if someone is updating something, it does not make sense for me to update anything. So I'll just simply go over here and only iterate on the record which are having that particular ID as initial. Post which I generated a new travel ID. I've updated the buffer. This is okay. I mean, this is fine. But the important thing on which your page navigation and all the subsequent call will depend on the returning parameter, or I can say the response that you send. Okay. So the response over here is nothing but your map parameter. In your map parameter, you have to return two things. One, your temporary ID, and one, your permanent ID. Now, what do I mean by temporary ID? Okay, so you see this PID. Now, this is something we have discussed, I can say understood many times. But when I say PID, it's nothing but a temporary ID that ideally you will assign whenever you are creating a record, but you don't have a number. So for example, during the create travel, we pushed the data into buffer. We did not have a real travel ID over here. So we created a temporary ID over here called percentage PID, which is nothing but an arbitrary generated GUID. Now, this particular GUID serves the purpose of a unique identity of the record. So if you would like to replace this temporary ID with the temporary identity with the permanent identity, you should be sending this combination. So the framework knows that, okay, this particular temporary ID, whichever you were using till now, is now being replaced with the permanent ID. And this final permanent ID is going to go and sit into my DB table. So it's going to serve the purpose of my primary key. That's how it works. Okay, getting my point? Any doubts, any questions on any of the things we have covered so far? No? Okay. Then next thing is, let's say what all things we have implemented. We understood that while updating the buffers and everything, we created the record, we deleted the one, but maybe the update is something that we have not done, right? So let's just try to have the update functionality also in place. Now, I'll just put a cursor. So we have done that earlier, so you would be knowing how we can do it. I'll just copy this and I'll try to, let's just say, create one more handler method over here. Okay, it says type response for mapped early. I'll just use this. Okay, fail early and reported one. Okay, and type table for update travel. Okay, I'll copy this and here I'll go this for create. I'll just put one for update as well. TT update travel. I just use this. Okay, now let's just try to create this method. Now we will be writing the logic to update this information into the DB. Right now, for us to do that, we have to understand how the calls are being, let's just say, articulated, and how the data is flowing in. Right. So what I'll do is I'll just go over here and I'll try to call the update over here. Okay, we'll pass the date information. Okay, so we are expecting this particular method to get invoked whenever something is being updated. Right. I'll just put a breakpoint over here. Maybe let's just do this. Let's just remove all the breakpoint because it's been long time, so we don't know at what all places the breakpoints are there already. Deactivate, reactivate this one. Adjust number and the save one. Okay, I'll just try to go back to my application and click on edit. So many a time it really makes sense for you to visualize the flow as well. Many a time you will feel that, okay, why this method will get called in particular sequence, but it will, for example, adjust number, right? This method ideally gets called each time, but the idea is till the time you don't have anything into buffer, nothing is going to get executed, even the save. Okay, that's the reason you should be quite cautious on what you're writing within the method. So we have this open. Now, for example, I'll just say uh, this one updated. Now, what I'm waiting for? So if draft gets updated, ideally we get a message over here called draft updated. Because of Fiori framework so-called functionality of delayed draft, you might see a difference. Okay, now here it's adjust number. So it never called the update method over here. Okay, so now the draft is updated. This should be there into the draft. I would like to save this. I'll click on save. Okay, I'm back into the debugger, but now I have the update travel over here. What all things I do have? So for example, I'll expand the local and here I'll see that I have got my entities over here, which has got all the data that I'm looking for, and I can rely on that. Many a time, so this is an update call, right? An update call ideally is responsible for sending you whole data. Many a time you might feel, or many a time when let's just say certain update calls are being triggered, you might also observe that only certain parameters are being updated. In that case, you can rely on this percentage control as well. This percentage control ideally gives you this all the values which are being updated. So for example, here the good thing is it gave us all the value and it says that description is something which is updated because here you see 0, 1, rest all are 0. So you can depend on the percentage control flag. It's as simple as, or I can say it's mostly aligned with your data X, right? In your WAPI or anywhere where you were getting data X, it's the same kind of a thing that you will see over here. So that's what you can rely on. And you can use this to update the buffer. And finally, the thing should get updated into the DB. Okay, so I'll just execute this. We know that it's not going to update anything onto the DB because our implementation is yet empty. So I'll just go back over here and I'll just deactivate the breakpoint and have a look at the screen again. Okay, it's timed out, but let's see. I guess I'll refresh. Do I have my draft available or it has just got killed? Okay, it's there. So my draft is not there and even the data is not stored. Okay, so now we'll try to implement this. So how we can do that? The way we did it for the create update same way, create and delete, right? So what we are supposed to do is we are supposed to push the data into the buffer, so that particular data which is coming up, we can utilize it finally to have the data saved into the DB table. That's the main idea. Okay. So in order for us to do that, we'll simply go and push the data into the buffer. Now, do we have some buffer already available? Yeah, over here, for example, GT travel is the one that I was using. So I'll use this. That's one. And we'll try to push the data into the buffer. So we have this GT travel, and what are the things that we do have in input? It's a entities. Okay. So I'll just simply try to use this GT travel over here, but the input for it will be going through my parameters over here. What are those? Entities, right? Entities, mapping. Will I get mapping from entity or to entity? So my source over here is entity. So I'll just say mapping from entity. Okay. And I'll activate this. Now, what I did, I just did updated the GT travel over here. Okay. Now, at this point in time, did I updated the returning map parameter? Not really, right? Because what I'll try to map over here, if you see my mapping over here can have my PID, travel ID, this combination which we were using in create travel, because we know that the travel is something which is under creation. I don't have the real identity, so I'm using this to actually create the linkage. Now let's see here in update, all we did is we just pass the data over here into the buffer by using the right mapping. So this city travel is the table, is the buffer table that we created. It has all the, it has got all the data. After update, I'm expecting my save to get triggered, and my save method over here has got a buffer check and post which it is trying to update the things into DB. Right. So logically this should work because my map parameter is something which I'm not passing anyway. So I'll just try to refresh and edit. Okay, let's just try to edit this. I'll just simply say update and I'll save this. And now I see my travel update is something which is working fine because we have the update node also working. So it's as simple as that. So now the points, the theory, the main thing which I would like, I was mainly emphasizing on you guys was that whenever you are working on any unmanaged scenario, you should be clear on which method to use. The moment you are clear with that, the things will be quite clear and you will be able to implement the logic the way we are expecting it to work. Okay. Now what we are focusing on over here is how the unmanaged scenario work. But maybe you would be knowing, right? We mentioned one time that it's not only fresh unmanaged scenario. Many a time you might get a feeling saying 80% of the logic that I am planning to build is something that I have to do on my own, but only very limited chunk of it is available. Okay, now if that's the case, very limited chunk of it is available, right? Then in that particular case, it really makes sense for me to go with a managed scenario. So I'll go with a managed scenario, for example, in that case where my 80% of the logic is something that I have to build. But how about the remaining 20%? what can I do to accommodate this particular one, and how can I ultimately get the space where I can plug in my logic, where can I put my logic openly rather than into the chunk of determination and validation only. How can I do that? Okay. And for that, we have got a flavor which is tying up manage and unmanaged together, called manage with unmanaged save. That's something we are just now going to look into once. Meanwhile, anyone has any doubts on the things that we just covered, or maybe anything before? Okay, no, I'll take it as a no, saying maybe you guys are clear. Just, just okay. Now, the next thing that we are going to focus on is uh, okay. Let's just say we had two applications, right? We were creating a managed application and unmanaged application both. In the managed application with the ref framework, with God's grace, everything was working perfectly fine. Now, we would like we realize that maybe it's not something we planned for, but things did not work out the way expected. We were asked to write the logic on our own because of some other openness that we are looking for. So, for example, if I just run this manage rep application as well to see how is the status. Okay, so we have the application in a nice state available. My data is flowing in. I am you able to use my create, update, delete. The things are working fine over here. This is my managed one. This is my unmanaged one. Okay. Now the idea is that this my UI wrap is a managed, my UI U wrap, which is an unmanaged one. That's how maybe we can just right now focus on if needed. Plus over here, if I just go in my managed behavior implementation, okay, I'll just go over here. So we found that most of the things are working out of the box. Okay, but still we have read only, update, a static field control, normal create functionality, determination, validation, everything in place. Now suddenly I realize that maybe my scenario that I am working on does need me to use uh, something which is an existing logic, or at least I need some openness. I need a big chunk where I can manipulate the data. I can do some additional things. And maybe I'll just let's just say for the difference, maybe let's just say I don't want to do this time it on to the root node, which is a travel. Rather, I would like to have some additional capability on my booking. Okay, let's just see the current state of my booking, how it's working right now. Then I'll just click on create over here. I have the start date field. I'll just go over here. I just pass the maybe I'll try to create a booking as well. Airline ID 123, flight number 245 466. Okay, and now I would like to create this record, for example. We see the record got created. And if I would like, I can also say that I would like to, let's just say, manipulate certain things. So I can simply say that, let's just say booking flight date, I am trying to change it to 19th, and maybe I'll see that, okay, the things will work. Booking date is mandatory. Okay, yeah, it just got cleared out somehow. Seems there was some tampering over here because this data is not getting mapped correctly. Okay, we'll see. We'll see how maybe from a bug resolution perspective also we can look at the application. Maybe let's just look at that as well. But now my focus over here is that when I say I'm working with travel or booking, we know how much amount of code we have done. It's very limited. We have, okay, flight date, booking ID. Okay, now for this particular case as well, right? When I say my booking date, which is not getting saved, why is that the case? Because in manage, ideally the data get persisted based on the mapping that you do have. You have travel ID mapping, booking ID, customer ID, and everything. Do we have anything for booking date? I don't think so, right? So this booking date was never mapped, and that's the reason it's not getting saved. Maybe whenever you're working on some scenarios where you realize that there is a bug reported, right? What would be your kind of action? How would you realize and how would you figure out the issue? Okay, so for example, when I say a field is not getting mapped, my first thing should be where it should be mapped. So for example, I'll set this persistent table. Now, how the data is being passed into the input via the entity, and does my entity property has the right linkage to my table? Here I see it's not there, right? So I'll just try to fix this. Booking date over here, booking date. So seems now it's getting saved. Likewise, we can look into the issue whenever they are they are there, and maybe we can figure out the root cause and fix those as well. Now, why we are over here? The idea is that when it comes to unmanaged, we have got quite openness, but when it comes to manage, we have got many hook points where we can write the logic. But when it comes to a direct method where I'll say that, hey, this is the place where I'll decide what should happen rather than system doing it, then in that case, we can, let's just say, figure out another way of doing it rather than going with a manage. Okay, and that's where I'm talking about one flavor over here of wrap manage scenario. Okay, wrap manage scenario in conjunction with your unmanaged capability gives you one more flavor called manage with unmanaged save. Okay, but one thing you should be quite clear about is when I talk about an unmanaged, if I say I am trying to do something during create, I would like to update something or delete something. My expectation will be that I'll have a two set of methods. So one set of method where I'll deal with the buffers, and one set of method where I'll actually do the saving of the data called save sequence. Right? I can say these are my save sequence methods. For example, save, adjust number, and XYZ. Whereas these are my handler methods. But when it comes to your manage with unmanaged save, you realize what are you actually mentioning? It says it's a managed capability for sure, but which has got an unmanaged save capability. It means only during the save you will get the control, but the by default save which was working, that's something which is not going to work anymore. That's what we ideally call it as a manage with unmanaged save capability over here. Okay. Now, in order for us to understand that, what I'll do is I'll just plug in this capability and see what are the behavioral changes we see onto the application. Okay. How we can enable manage with unmanaged save. First thing you should be knowing is when I say manage with unmanaged save or any capabilities, I should be ideally plugging those things, okay, at the place where we want it to work. So for example, in this booking, if I say I would like to go with unmanaged save, I'll just press an enter in my behavior. I'll just say with unmanaged save. Let's see what it has to say. It says that it is not possible to specify both unmanaged save and persistent table at the same point in time. It means we have to remove the table persistency. My table won't store the data by default. You have to write some logic in order for that to happen. So it means the moment you write unmanaged, your saving capability is gone. Your create, update, delete, those things which you are working out of the box are no longer there. Okay. On top of it, is there anything else into the problem statement? It says 3 warnings. What are those? Class can't be analyzed during BDEF check. Okay. It says that a behavior method save modified must be redefined. Okay. So if I double click on this, it says that there is a suggestion over here. I'll try to press Control plus 1. Ideally, many a time it suggests, many a time it allows us to directly redefine, but here is the error that we are focusing on. Okay, it says that there is a method called save modified. This is responsible ideally for your unmanaged save. So if you're going with that, ensure you have that method implemented. Okay, so I'll say fine. I'll just go over here in my behavior class implementation. Okay, I'll just go over here and I'll open my save sequence as well. And here it's giving me one error that I'll need this method. You remember it warned us same way when I went ahead with the late numbering, right? So there are certain methods which it is ideally trying to help us with, saying there is a method that you should be defining. But from where it is coming? Anyway, such method will come from the parent class of it. So for example, in this case, it's a saver class. I'll just click on this. Here we see we have got multiple methods which are protected. It means multiple methods which are supposed to be inherited into the child class. What are those? It says we have got finalize, we have got check before save, adjust number, save, clean up. All this method you see, the one which you are using. Now it says adjust number, the one which we used right earlier. Implementation of phase is optional. It says this method is optional, not hard and fast. If desired, you can use redefinition. Compiler create a member structure, this one, containing this one, and each subclass, the method must insert the result key into this table. Check before save. Check before save is also an optional. Cleanup is an optional. You can redefine if you want. Finalize, that's the same one. It specializes the target of failed structure. Whenever there is something called failed, you can always return the key of it in the finalize one. Now implementation is mandatory for unmanaged behavior. You see the one which is having a save in unmanaged scenario, you will need this. And the idea is the phase should not fail. During the execution in the save, you should not return a error message. You should handle those beforehand and ensure that only valid set of data are being passed to my save method. When it comes to save modified, implementation is mandatory for unmanaged save in managed behavior, which is your managed with unmanaged save. It also demands that your phase must not fail. You should ensure the validity of the data beforehand. Or I can say consistency of the data. Now, I'll redefine this method because my class over here has already mentioned that this particular one is a parent class of it. I can redefine any methods I want. I'll just simply go with methods, this one, and I'll redefine it. And I'll implement this. Okay, I'll format this code and I'll activate both the codes over here. Okay, so now what we got is we have got the save modified method over here. We have got the unmanaged save written over here. We think maybe we have got something in the play, but let's see how it's behaving, right? The moment I say I have used the unmanaged save on my booking, let's just again try to work on the things that we are working. So this is my unmanaged rep, this is my managed application, right? I'll just go over here and try to again click on create. So I'll try to create one record. I'll say I would like to add some data. I'll say fine, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, wait tomorrow. Oh, maybe. Okay, so we expect that this will get saved. Okay, now let's just talk about this one. I'll click on create, click on apply. I see a line getting created, but this draft. We are talking about the save phase where actually my data gets saved, right? I'll just simply say this one and maybe customer ID, some sort of a airline ID. Okay, and now I'll try to click on create. Nice. So what do we see? My header got saved, but do I see anything available on my booking? Same system stored the draft, but when it comes to persistency, that's no longer working because I remove the persistent table. Now think it from a different direction. It's not that it did not work. It think the idea is it is giving you chance to ultimately ensure that this particular node is being saved in the way you want. Okay. In order for us to understand that, I'll just close the things that we don't want for now. Close. Okay, I'm into save modified over here. Put a breakpoint. Okay, and now let's just say I'll try to okay, let's just do this. I just activated the breakpoint. You will see the iterations into which this method gets invoked. Press on edit. You see my save sequence is in. I am getting a save modified over here. Local variable over here are nothing but create, update, delete. Plus create, update, delete just has got booking because only my booking has volunteered to be part of my unmanaged family. My travel is not because it's working via manage. So this type is something which is dynamically generated. You won't see the nodes which are not there for some additional save or unmanaged save capabilities. That's the reason you will see booking, but it's, as we can see, it does not have anything edited. So first clue is if we have some data over here, then only we'll work on that. For now, during the edit, I don't have anything. Execute. Try to click on create. Okay, I have got one debugger point again. Have I got anything in my create, update, delete? Not really. I'll execute. Apply. Try to manipulate this. It's updating the draft. Definitely it will hit the save modified again. Do you see any data over here in my create, update, delete? Not yet, right? I'll execute this. I'll try to, so my draft is updated. I'll try to finally save this. So we know if I don't do anything, this will lapse, right? So I'll just click on save. And here now we see as we are into the create operation, my save modify method is coming up with a data which says that this particular booking over here has got some data and here it is. It has got this one, and likewise I have n number of things which I can work on. Okay, so I have got all these things using which I can have my information available and I can use it to save the data finally into my DB. But yeah, definitely the idea is if I don't do it, it won't work. At least my data won't get saved. That's the reason I don't see it working over here. Okay, now let's just do this. I'll just try to go over here and understand that, okay, how my system is going to play the role over here. Okay. What I'll do is I'll just try to write the logic based on the things that we just observed. Plus, if I see over here in my save modified, the importing parameter is create, update, delete. If I have a create with a booking, it means someone is trying to create a booking. If I go back and I'll say I have an update request for booking, it means someone is trying to update the booking information that has been created. If someone has got the delete, the same story applies over there as well. Now, in order for us to ensure that, okay, we are doing the right thing over here, what I'll do, I'll first take a precaution saying I'll only execute the phase which is there. So I'll just say if my create operation is requested or update or delete. If my create is not initial, else if my update okay. So these are the code chunks that we'll be using. Now, the idea is that within this create, update, and delete, you can use any of the existing logic that you were thinking to use earlier easily. You can use your puppies to update the data. You can use your utility classes. Okay, all those things that you are using to update the buffer plus your DB. That's the thing that you will be doing same point in time. I can say buffer updation and actual DB updation. Both are supposed to be performed, or I can supposed to be done here. Here as in the save modified method, in case you are going with unmanaged save. Let's just say I would like to go with a create travel. When someone says that I would like to create a record, what you can simply do is you will try to populate the data, okay, and then you will try to store that into the DB. So for example, I would like to store now I could have, let's just say, created another API class and method of it, but that's the same thing. Maybe you can also utilize the method that you do have. As I don't have a method, I'll just try to write the logic over here. You will just simply say LT, for example, create with unmanaged save, but for the booking. Okay, this is my wrap managed scenario, managed BO. But still, the keywords that we have learned in my unmanaged capabilities are very well applicable here as well. What we used to call it as a manage with unmanaged save and all those stuff. Here, it will give you the openness what we had in the unmanaged. So mapping that we have done on the behavior, the same I can utilize over here as well. What I'll do is I'll just simply say that I have this particular table that I would like to utilize. And the source for this is going to be my create booking mapping from entity, because why I'm writing from entity, because the source of it is an entity type. And then I'll update the DB. Now here we have just validated whether my create is not initial. Now what if I have more than one node with the capability of unmanaged save? I just received the data in create does not mean my booking is something which is requested for creation, right? So what you can do is you can also check that is it the booking that's being worked upon. Okay, so I'll just simply say is not initial. And finally, I'll try to update the DB with that. Okay, same goes with the update and delete, right? But the moment you do that, your create capability should do something, right? I'll just try to, okay, yeah, the breakpoint is anyway deactivated. That's good. Let me just refresh this. Okay, now I'll try to edit this. Okay, so now in this particular case, we'll try to click on create over here, apply. Okay, and I'll try to save this. Hmm, okay, let's see what did just happen. Okay, let me just refresh this. Okay, I don't have the records saved. Let's just try to put a breakpoint over here and here as well. Okay, let's just do it optimally. I'll just try to put a breakpoint here. We have one more breakpoint here. Remove this, execute. Okay, let's try to save this. Okay, I have got this. LT create you booking. Okay, travel ID is something which we are. Okay, here the travel ID is not flowing in, and that's the reason we don't see the record available. As the travel ID is not available, system won't really recognize, okay, what's the data that you are trying to map to. Okay, let's just try to understand why the travel ID is not flowing in that case. Okay, in the actual create booking as well, that's not there. Okay, I'll just execute this. Okay, we have got this travel ID over here. We are saying booking ID is read only update. This one should be flowing in, and this one should have been placed into my draft. Because if the record is not getting placed into draft, definitely the system won't. How did this happen? Okay, let's just go via this. Let's just try to analyze the issue step by step. Click on create here. Okay, click on create. Okay, so during the creation, it's flowing in with the data, but the moment I update, maybe somehow it's not. That's what I understood. Okay, let's just try to, okay, go in edit mode, try to click on create, apply this one. Hmm. So the idea is that during the creation mode, the data was flowing in correctly, but during the update mode, the moment you say I would like to create the record, your travel ID, which ideally should have been passed automatically, that's something which you are not getting over there. Okay. It's a bit weird because ideally framework should do that. If I just open the draft table of this, is my draft table getting the data of my travel ID, booking ID? Let's just try to view the draft data. Okay, this is some different draft. I'll try to click on edit. So this record over here should have got populated in my draft table. I see 4140 with booking ID something. Okay, but I mean, we have not handled the numbering for this. That makes sense. But how about the other one? Okay, I'll just try to discard. Go over here, click on create. Okay. Okay. And here I have 4141. Definitely there won't be anything for that booking yet. Now what I'm expecting is the moment I click on edit, I click on creation of this draft. This draft that ideally gets created, yeah, is getting 4141 for sure over here. So I'm getting this number over here, but somehow in the unmanaged save, in the save modifier, that's not flowing in. Okay, let's see why it's happening. Okay. Uh okay. Kind of thing. Okay, let's see what's just happening. I'll try to put the breakpoint at two places then. Adjust number is the one which I actually doubt is the culprit. Okay, I'll try to click on save now. Okay. Okay, so here I have got my map parameter, my map travel and booking both are initial. Again, I'm getting the control and here I have got something for booking. But this time, this travel ID over here and the booking ID both are blank. Why it's happening then? As this number over here is blank, the one which is flowing into the output is also the same. That's the reason we are losing the number that we do have. But that should not be the case because if I lose this, definitely my data is going to go away. Percentage TMP over here. Yeah, here we have, right? So the temporary ID that's there, that is supposed to be mapped over here. So if I just copy this from here till here, because there is a late numbering, Okay. My booking idea, we don't have a late numbering implemented for that, but we can go ahead and write the else part of my booking ID as well. Now this time, if I just go over here and execute, now I got the 4141. And now if I just execute and execute, go back, yeah, this timed out, but let's see again. Okay, so we have got this booking saved over here. Okay, now let's just also try out one more scenario. Okay, just to be double sure that the conclusion at which we are is correct. Click on create. Okay, I'll try to, yeah, the breakpoint is anywhere there. I'll activate this and then click on save. Okay, we again got the debugger, right? Now in this map over here, we don't have any input as such for the first time. Execute, hitting the call again. Now I have got both of them. If I expand travel over here, I see that my travel ID over here, first and temp, we have not populated. That's not the, when it comes to booking, the same story, everything is initial. If I just press F6, the things will go on, execute. Next time I'm getting a control over here, I am getting the number automatically because the system is generating it. Okay, so that's the one which we ultimately are supposed to utilize. What we'll do is we'll just simply say that if my map travel over here is not initial, same way, let's just say if my map booking is not initial. Okay, and here we have to ultimately focus on the fact that my particular travel that we are looking for, okay, is having a right set of a uh, let's just say percentage temp. So for example, if I say my map booking is there, but I am just having a temporary number, I have to I have to ensure that that's being passed into the perfect one. So I'll just say loop at my map booking, assigning field symbol LFS. Okay. Uh, Now in this one, what all things do we have? We have got this percentage temp. So I'll just simply say where my percentage temp is not initial. So if I have got the percentage temp, I'll again check if my percentage temp over here, which is nothing but LFS booking, percentage temp dash my travel ID. So if I have got the temporary travel ID because it's not yet persisted, then I have to ensure that it gets persisted. Okay, I'll just simply say LFS booking. And here the travel ID I'll pass will be the temporary travel ID that I'm getting from here. So it gets permanent. Okay, I'll just save this, activate that. Okay. Again, go back. You got the debugger deactivated. Create. Okay, for example, the scenario that we were talking about, during creation, everything was working fine. I'll just create the header first, and then if I try creating an item, then it was not working. Okay, now I'll try to click on save, and now I see the data getting saved. So this time we know that the things are not working out of the box. Rather, we did something on the save modified for this to work, and now this particular logic can have n number of replacement. You can use it directly like this, or if you want, you can just simply go ahead and let's just say call your own set of utilities, own sort of existing business logic, whatever you do have. But you are getting the option to control how the data is going to get persisted rather than framework doing it for you. Any questions, any doubts till now? Okay, seems we are good. Now let's just try to ultimately complete the circle over here. Okay, so I'll say that I am willing to uh, work on the update as well. So the things will be quite simple, right? I don't see a reason why. Okay, I'll just simply remove all the breakpoint existing one that we don't need. And I'll also try to view the fact first over here. So I have got this travel. If I say X and Y, for example, this description onto the header, save this. This will get saved. But if I just go over here and I'll say that, hey, my flight number is supposed to be 456, and I'll save this, it won't, because my update capability over here is not available yet. So what I'll do is I'll just, in order for us to ensure that the things are working perfectly fine, I'll just simply put a breakpoint and try to see how what's going on into the background. And my debugger just got executed. Okay, and here I have the update over here. I see the booking is currently empty. Same goes with the create and delete because it's an update call anyway. Try to click on save. We have got the update over here. Let's just view the booking. Here we see we are getting all the data which are updated plus the travel ID over here, which is nothing but your primary key. So travel ID, booking ID, these are the one that you are getting. On top of it, you are only getting the one that you do have, which is your connection ID over here, the one which you updated. The same point in time in the percentage control over here, we can see that the flag over here is 01. It means this is the field that just got updated. What you're supposed to do is you are supposed to update that field. Now realize the thing that you are using a BAPI. Okay. Now in that case, the things will be quite simple. All you will do is you will try to uh, ensure that the data X fields are being mapped correctly. And the moment your data X fields are being mapped, you will be able to, let's just say, pass it to the BAPI, and BAPI will ultimately take care of the updation of the record only which are updated. For the other one, anyway, it will pick the data from the DB. Let's just try to design the front look of it. The BAPI portion of it, I'll leave it up to you guys. Maybe you can give it a try. But how the BAPI portion of it is going to look alike, that's something we are now going to focus in our update scenario. Okay. So these are input that we do have. What we are supposed to do is we are supposed to ultimately go ahead and look into the mapping part of it. Saying if I say I would like to update something, how it's going to look alike. Okay. So in that particular case, I'll just simply try to execute this first. We know it's not going to anyway save. Now, we have got these things available over here. It says that there is a DMO booking. Okay. It says these are the mapping thing, which ideally stores the, which ideally says that the input parameters that you are getting, how they are supposed to get saved onto the table. Now, when you are working on a, let's just say any sort of such utility, be it let's just say BAPI or some sort of a API class, we have two kind of structures, right? A data structure and a data X structure. Purpose of data is to actually contain the real data. Purpose of data X to actually contain the X for the field which are just updated or which are there for any sort of processing. In order for us to achieve the same thing in RAP, okay, so for example, the structure of this over here is kind of a DMO booking, right? Let's see if we do have something around the control structure of it. Okay, so for example, I'll just simply say I would like to have a structure and booking. You see the DMO as booking X structure. I'll just open this and I'll put a cursor on this. It shows me that I have got a field for travel ID and booking ID, which are my primary key, but the other things over here are kind of a access the boolean, right? I'm not sure whether there is the same structure that we have got. So what we can do is we can make this simplified. Okay, and I'll just try to put a cursor back on my booking over here to see does it have anything called action code or anything? No, right? So our set of fields and that one is different. Let's just try to do this. Let's just try to create a structure instead. Right click, new. I'll create a DDIC structure and I'll name it, let's just say as a ZJF, maybe booking X structure. So I'll just say ZJF underscore S underscore booking X structure. Okay, go next and finish. So we just created a structure. Now, what are the components I am expecting it to have? Okay, so I'll just open this over here. What I want is, I want each and every field which are available over here, the non-client field, to be available in my structure as well. Plus, structure cannot have a key parameter, so I'll just remove that. It cannot have the data, so I'll remove the not null constraint as well. The key parameter will stay. I do not want this relationship. I'll just also remove that. Okay, maybe it's needed, but I won't give it from here, rather I'll give it from here. Okay, so I gave the currency quantity relationship saying for this price, the currency is coming from this currency code. Now, anyway, we'll not need it in a minute because we are going to change the structure of it in this way. The standard example which I just shown you, you see the type of all the X structure should be this one, XSD Boolean. So what we'll do is we'll just try to keep the primary key, but other than primary key, all the data element that we do have, we'll just change it to Boolean. So there is a structure that we just created. Okay, I'll just activate this. So what does it contain? It contains all the fields, okay, in the form of a data and data X, like we have in BAPI and a utility, whose structure is matching exactly with my data structure, but other than primary key, rest all are kind of Boolean. It just contains either X or blank, right? I'll just copy this and use the structure over here, which says that this particular thing over here, which you mapped using a mapping for this one corresponding, in case there are some control flag like 0, 1, which is coming, I would like to convert them, okay, into a PAPI format. For that, what you will do is you will just simply add a keyword over here. Oh, 1 second. Yeah, control and this one. What does it have? The component travel ID has a, okay, not supported for control. Oh, why is that the case? That's a key. Let's see. Is there anything that we are supposed to? Not really, right? What's the type of that particular field that it is warning us for? Component travel ID has a type that's not supported for control. But why? Ideally, it should be supported. I don't see a reason why it should not be, because it's a primary key of it, and primary key anyway should not be manipulated for sure. Is it expecting that anyway it's a primary key should not be anyway part of it? Okay, let's see.
Yeah, I think it's expecting it should not be changed, something like that.
Yeah, that's true. But idea is that I am adding this just to have a unique identity. I mean, if you get rid of that, ultimately it's the same thing. You are getting the data anyway. Anyway, if you see the travel ID is something which we never had. It is a boolean, right? It was just a primary key just for the real identity. Now, if I remove this, okay, what does it have to say again? Booking ID has a type for not supported for control. What's happening? Oh, it's not how it should be. I feel there is some issue in the structure type. Uh-huh. And we can have everything onto Boolean, but I don't think it really makes sense because we'll need the data for sure. Okay, one sec. It's expecting it to be this, but I don't think that's the right thing to do. Let's see. It will allow us like this, but does it really make sense for us to actually use this in this way? That's the main doubt that I just had, because ultimately we should not have everything as a X. Otherwise, I mean, in my BAPI, mostly what happens is the primary key is something that's there. On top of it, other fields, ideally you get it as a X. Okay, no worries. We'll anyway have that field in the control, so you will ultimately have those things as well. That's not an issue. I'll add back the field. Okay, I guess we anyway don't need that field as well again. So we have added this control. Now let's see how it's ideally going to help us in a long run. The purpose is that I have some set of field. I have some set of fields over here. The same set of field over here, which are there in my mapping, has got now a data and the X structure both. I'll activate this. And as we are into update mode, what we are supposed to do is we are supposed to ultimately ensure that the data is being mapped correctly. Okay, because if that's not there, then maybe there can be some trouble. So for example, if I just simply say I am trying to update my booking, set shape is the one. Oh, it's a dot. Okay, now when we had this, what we used to have is mapping from entity. Else I would like to get the data over here for sure. And I'll just simply have two kind of data. I'll just simply say underscore X, which are the control structure, plus I'll have the data over here, which are there for updation. Okay. Now, in this one, what you will do is we'll ultimately say all the data which are there for updation. Let's just get that mapping from entity, because we are having the source as an entity. On top of it, let's just say what all variants we do have. I'll just simply say corresponding over here. Now, in this case, the idea is that whenever we are going ahead with the some set of a data, we'll just simply say update over here would have got booking. Then I'll say mapping from entity. Then you see the keyword using control. Now this using control is ideally meant for control using the control flag. That's the same keyword that we used over here. It ideally is trying to map the percentage control deep structure that's coming into the data X of it. So I'll just activate and maybe we'll try to put a breakpoint as well. Okay, and here I'll just try to edit this. I'll try to make it 456 and I'll save this. Here you see we got the booking. We have got the booking in my update phase as well. I'll just say F6 and this booking over here has got the data. Okay, at the same point in time, this update booking over here has also got something onto the control layer as well, which is nothing but this one. Okay, which says their connection ID has been changed. Okay, I'll just say F6. It says that your connection ID over here has got changed because the system knows that the percentage control that you do have over here is tightly linked with your control flag, and you have also used in the behavior. System knows what is something that's being manipulated. Okay, that's the reason this particular control flag over here are being used whenever you are using a unmanaged save, or let's just say anything which has something to do with your underlying standard layer. SAP knows that in past it has designed everything without this control flag, but we're using a data X flag. That's the reason this particular conversion is something which has been provided out of the box. Going forward, what you can do is you can have this structure, pass it into the BAPI with the data and the X, and your things will start working. If you are supposed to write the logic updation on your own, you can simply say that I'll have this data and I'll just check if my data X is set. I'll try to update the data from the one which I'm getting into the input. And if that's not there, I'll try to update the data directly by getting it from the DB. But that's something which any standard WAPI will be doing that. And that's the reason you have opted for unmanaged save. If let's just say you are supposed to anyway write all this modified directly, definitely you would never would have opted for unmanaged because standard framework is anyway doing that. Okay. Any doubts? Any questions still? Okay, seems we are good. Now, one more thing. So we are talking about all this while for this unmanaged save. Now, we can have few more things. So for example, I'm fine with the way the wrap was working and the things were, let's just say, being saved and all the operations are working. But on top of it, let's just say I just felt a need of, let's just say, having uh, some additional capability rather than having a unmanaged save. I felt a need of having a additional save. Now, what is an additional save? So, for example, consider you have a node. For example, you have a travel node where your travel is being mapped and everything is working perfectly. On top of it, additionally, uh, there are certain standard components, certain UI reusable component, for example, you are using. What you want is on save of a travel, you would like attachments to get updated. You would like some notes to get updated. There are certain things that you would like to perform. In a simple term, I'll just say on save of a travel, other than travel table updation, that's a one basic activity which is being done. You would also like to update some sort of a travel log and on top of whatever is there. Then in that case, you would need a place where you can write the logic so that those things can also get executed after your actual data has been processed. Okay, and that's where another flavor of RAF will come into picture, which is called manage with additional save. Okay, now how manage with additional save is going to work. Let's just understand that. For example, I would like to edit on top of my travel. So I'll just simply say manage with additional save. Let's see what it has to say. Now, the moment I do that in the problems, do I have anything? Not really. Activate this. Go back over here. Put a cursor on save modified. You see now my travel also just started appearing over here. So the thing over here is that when you go with manage with additional save, what is the place that you will use to do those additional saving activity? So the save modified method is the one that you will be using. Many a time when you go with an unmanaged save and additional save both, you will feel as if you are using the same method for both the purpose, but that's the truth. That's how it has been designed. Your unmanaged save and additional save are ultimately utilizing the same methods, but at the same point in time, I cannot have both of them in the same node. So for example, if I just simply say that on top of the unmanaged save that I do have, so for example, I have an additional save and I would also like to have an unmanaged save over here. With unmanaged save, that's something that won't be possible because logically you are getting a control already in the method. You are doing whatever you would like to. Now you would like the save also not to work an additional save. So in case when you would like to do some additional activity plus save of that node is also something that you would like to control. What you will do is you will go with unmanaged save because anyway you are having the openness. You are able to do 5 more things compared to what a normal standard mapping would have done, right? So in that case, manage with unmanaged save gives you broader openness, broader let's just say options in order for you to manipulate anything compared to manage with additional save. Okay, I'll just activate this and we'll see what all things we can perform. So for example, we would like to see if we do have some table. Earlier I had created, I'm not sure whether that's there or that has been cleaned up. Okay, so this not there. We'll do that. So we are willing to create a let's just say a table normally, which can save the log of the updation which is going on. So I'll just simply right click over here and I'll just simply say database table. I'll just say it would be a not a draft table but a transparent table for my travel log. Okay, and here as a key, what we'll add, we'll try to utilize the one that we do have. I'll just we are trying to add the log on my travel. So I'll just add a travel ID over here. on top of it, maybe we can have some sort of a auto-generated key. So I'll just simply say revision ID, and maybe let's just say UUID. Let's just say there is a data element anyway for just copy this. Okay. Um, Other than that, we would like to also save some sort of additional thing, saying updation log, and maybe let's just say we'll like to give it 5,000 character. Component type of domain does not active. Okay, no worries. Let's just go with a minimal for now. We can create a domain, not an issue, but let's just say. Okay, so I have got the travel table. Now I would like to ensure that this data flows all the way to the output. So what I'll do is I'll just again go in the step that we have learned many times, data modeling. I'll just right click on this. I'll just simply try to create some sort of a I view. I'll just say I view for my travel log. Okay, next. And I'll just simply define the view entity. Okay, and next, what we'll do is we'll just define a service quality, which is A, because I have just give me a moment, okay, guys. Just a moment. Hey guys, yeah, sorry for the interruption. Okay, so I'll just try to create a okay. My table over here was this one. Okay, so we have got the travel ID out. Next one which we have got is a revision ID. We would also like to create some sort of a output out of it. So I'll just add a table kind of a structure. So I'll just say UI line item. So we can at least view it on the UI, right? So we know what's going on into the background. I'll just add this too, and we'll also add some label. And maybe some sort of label here as well. Activate this. Now I'll just use this particular travel log view that I do have just to ensure that my data is flowing all the way to the output. Now you remember when we were discussing this, we understood that anything that you define as a composition ideally has the implication that you will get a behavior on top of it. What we'll do is we don't want a behavior here, right? Like we have this particular one for an overall status, the one which we discussed. Same way over here, I'll just add an association which says that there can be either a 0 or n number of log available, association to as travel log on dollar projection, travel ID over here. Okay, and there is the one that we'll expose. Activate this, and we'll try to ultimately add this travel log over here in my C view, which is this one. Travel log. Okay, and next thing we'll do is we'll try to expose this in the metadata extension as well. So we had got two facets, my general information one, parent ID, this one, and we had another facet over here for booking. Let's just try to utilize the same design over here. You would like to have a ID for log. We'll put it at the end. Target element over here will be your underscore travel log. We'll call it as a logs, and we'll create it as a line item reference. Activate this. Let's just go back in my application. Okay, let's see. Open this. Why it did not appear? Why it's not appearing over here? Oh, nice. Because my service won't have that in the scope, isn't it? Service binding of my managed app application. Which one are we bind down to? Web app manifest. We are working with a travel to V2. This one. Okay, it does not have the association exposed over here because the view that we are exposing, it's exposed directly. The data, the eye view of it, we have not exposed, right? We'll just go over here. Service definition, this one. Okay, over here, and let's just refresh. Yeah, I see the travel log also appearing in the 2 right now. Go over here, refresh. Now I see the logs appearing, right? So I have a log as a table, but it does not have a data. So we'll see, we'll write the logic to have it enriched with some sort of a data. So what are we using it for? We are going to use it for some additional save capability. So if I just go over here, additional save capability pointed me to the save modified. It says my create, update, delete, right? But now let's just try to ensure that the things are defined in a fine-tuned way. So what I'll do is I'll just simply say my create over here is mainly focusing on booking. So I'll just simply say if my create booking is not initial, rather I'll just get rid of this. Same goes with my this one. We would like to have 2 chunks over here and delete. Okay. I would like to take care some additional save activity over here. For now, it's only with the travel. So I'll just simply say if create dash travel is not initial or my update dash travel is not initial or my delete dash travel is not initial, then in that case, we would like to perform something. Now, what is that something? Logically seeing, we are trying to do the things in a quite simple way. We are trying to uh, add a new line of code in my a table, right? What's the table? I'll just close this view as well, this one as well, this one as well. There's a table. I'll just copy this and I'll say I would like to add some entry in this table. Okay, so I'll just simply try to define a variable lt travel log type standard table of this one. Copy this and I'll say at end of this particular execution, there should be some entry that should be inserted in this particular table. ZJFT travel log from table this one. Perfect. Now my purpose over here is that I should be populating the data in this travel log table. If I'm able to do that, my data will be get populated over here. As simple as that. We would like to have certain things in place. So for example, my purpose is to just add a simple statement saying that travel got created, travel got updated on so and so date and time. Okay, as a log, a genuine log thing, right? So first thing I should be noticing is that there are 3 activities: create, update, delete. I would like to get the actual travel ID from where it is being performed. So I'll just say that what is that particular record that's being updated, or I can say being created or being deleted. So I'll just get the travel ID because I need the travel ID for my operation. Okay, and here the travel ID is type is DMO travel ID. Okay, and here I'll just simply say saying when my create travel over here is not initial, then if the record is there for creation, then give me the record for creation. So for example, I'll just get the record of create. It's a line item over here. Maybe I'll just try to make it maximize so we can view it clearly. Maybe create does not have anything, right? Create travel does have. Okay, so we just get those, but we'll ensure that it does not dump. So I'll just add it optional. Same goes with the update or delete. So if whatever is the operation we are focusing on, if it's create, update, or delete, wherever we are getting the travel ID, we are just trying to get it from there. Okay, so we have got this travel ID. So our first purpose is to update the travel ID over here. It's done. I'll just say I would like to populate the LT travel log over here. Populate data in LT travel log. Okay, and here I'll just add the travel ID, which is nothing but my LV travel ID. Revision ID is something I can definitely create. I would like to now get the reason why this particular call is over here. Is it for creation, updation, or deletion? Right. So what I'll do is I'll just simply try to generate the message. So I'll just simply say LV updation log over here. Okay, and here I'll just simply pass the data type. For example, maybe let's just say some sort of a string, or let's just say care 1000 if that's a valid one. Okay, that's that, right? So I'll just say the same kind of a story. Okay, over here, whatever is this, if my create travel is there, it means there is something for creation. Then I'll just simply add the resulting data over here saying that so and so travel created travel. I'm just preparing a string travel created on, and I'll just simply say on what date. So I'll just say side date. Okay, so on this particular date, I'll just add it onto the user format as well. So user can also view it easily, and maybe some sort of a time saying on so and so date and time this was created. Okay. Now, if it's update, I'll just change the message a bit saying it got updated. Okay, so I just did that. Now this particular updation log is something which is also ready for me. I'll just copy and update the updation log over here. And last one, maybe the revision ID, the main thing. Like we said, revision ID, we have used the same thing in my unmanaged scenario. How can I generate a GUID? I'll just use the CL UUID factory. Okay, that's a class. and we'll just simply say I would like to create a system UUID, out of which the method that we are interested in is this one, because we have 16 character row ID. Once the data has been populated, I can expect that this particular thing is going to get pushed onto the DB the moment some create, update, or delete is happening. Let's just activate this. Okay, let's just refresh. Okay, let's just try to create a record. Hit debugger, I'll deactivate that. Here, log does not have anything. I'll just simply try to create this. And you see a travel created on this record just popped up because during the final save, on top of this data save, your final data also saved your log. Okay. If I try to update this, for example, I'll just go and edit and I'll just simply say I would like to add a description, change the description. I'll just save this. It also created a record saying travel updated on so and so time. So ultimately, I'm storing a log, but that's not mapped to my BO as a behavior in the behavior definition. Rather, I'm doing it additionally on top of what I do have in my BO. That's why I utilize it, manage with additional save. So these are the capabilities, how unmanaged scenario can also be plugged into a manage and you can do the things that are required. Anyone has any doubts, any questions to know? No? Yes? Okay.
Hey, Sumit, I have a
Yes.
question.
Yeah, Kansh.
We discussed about unmanaged save, we discussed about additional save. Now, let's say, I think I discussed about it initially regarding an example app. Let's say I have an application for uh, invoice
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
generation, and we are accepting header and item details like the user to enter. Okay. And
Mhm.
upon save, we are storing those details into the custom table. So all these, as of now, has been handled through the managed application. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Mhm.
And now there is additional option, basically, to, like to post, like additional button. Okay.
Mhm.
And which user can use to actually, like underlying, we would use like mostly a BAPI call, right?
Mhm.
So
Correct.
that is not additional save, right? We have already saved,
No, that's not.
and the data
No,
is
no,
already,
that's
yeah.
no. That's not additional save. So you remember we mentioned that there are certain topics that we are yet to cover. Okay, the
Okay,
one
okay.
which you just mentioned are coming from there. Maybe I'm not sure whether I mentioned it here or I wrote it somewhere. Yeah. So the update, okay, operation of unmanaged, that's something we covered today. The manage with unmanaged and additional save we covered today. Now the things which are remaining, the one falls in this category, actions and functions. What are we going
I
to
see.
do is, you will select a record, but now you would like to perform something post. Now post has some
Correct.
significance with reference to your business object, but post may have a different meaning somewhere altogether. So that's the reason the custom actions which are there, you can write anything you want over here and this operation will get performed and finally the result will get reflected onto the UI. That's what we call it as an actions and functions. So this is the one that
Okay.
we are going to cover.
All right. All right.
So maybe
Okay.
your
That's fine.
question will get answered over here.
Sure. Okay. That's an additional flavor for managed along with some additional unmanaged
I
thing.
can't
Right?
say additional flavor. It's about HTTP protocol. So when I say REST API, right? A REST API has a standard capability for create, update, delete, and query. On top of it, it gives you something called actions, something which are not fulfilled by the generic REST API behavior. You will have an action. Now, this REST API, be it in the form of a wrap, be it in the form of SAP GUI based gateway object. Here, there you used to have something called function import. These are the same thing. So you are
Mhm.
ultimately using the capability to define your application specific behavior rather than going on to the REST API. It's like SOAP API is an action based API. Each and everything you will define an endpoint for. In REST, generic things will get handled automatically, and here on top of it, you'll have an action. And this is
Got it.
possible in both managed and unmanaged. So the scenario that we are going to cover, you will ultimately be utilized. You will be able to utilize it in both of them, managed and unmanaged both.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Anyone has any other doubts? No? Okay, then yeah, maybe we'll call it a day. Thanks for joining. And tomorrow we won't have the session as I mentioned onto the group. We have 8 sessions, two more. I guess we'll have 2 more sessions onto the in next weekend. Okay, and these are the things that we are yet to cover. That's something we'll cover in detail. Action functions, how the dynamic feature control works, how the app deployment works. But anything that we have covered so far, in case you while trying out you run into any issue or in case you have any doubt, we can also utilize the time to clarify your doubts. So try to give some time to do the hands-on the things that we have covered so far. That would help you guys.
Sumit,
Uh,
sorry to cut you.
yeah, Shubhajit.
Subhajit.
Yeah.
Uh, Basically, anything regarding Adobe Forms, I mean, anything changed? I mean, how do you import Adobe Forms here and all those Adobe Forms and baddies? Anything that we'll be speaking about? Or it
No.
remains the same?
So no. So the idea is there are two
Hmm.
things. First one
Hmm.
is when it comes to Adobe Form in on-premise system, things are not going to get
Correct.
changed. Uh,
Okay.
But when it comes to a BTP environment, then
Hmm.
BTP has come up with all the services. So, for example, ABAP environment is one service which ideally focus on ABAP cloud. First,
Correct. Hmm.
earlier printing solution were part of a normal ABAP. We used to design it. Now, SAP has exposed a service called Adobe Cloud Services, Adobe Services. Okay, and
Previously,
that's
also
some
there was ADS, I think, Adobe Document Server in on-premise.
exactly, but that was plugged directly in your ABAP. I can say stack, right? But this is
Correct. Hmm.
something you have to plug into a web stack. Let's just say create an instance and subscription for that, and create a
Hmm.
destination for the ADS, a web development
Hmm.
server that we are
Correct.
talking about,
Correct.
for which we have to create a destination, then consume it. Then it will give you a forms and form templates that you can consume and generate that. So
Correct.
that's a thing that you will have to follow in order for that. But that's something
Hmm.
which are not part of this. But yeah, uh, those admin activity once they are considered, Adobe Form designing is also almost on the same line as what it used to be earlier. SFP,
Oh. And JavaScripting, everything, I mean, like dynamic Adobe Forms, everything is
JavaScript
same.
and form calcs and JavaScript that used to be there. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's those
Okay.
are also there.
Okay. Okay. So anything, if you have something around Adobe Cloud Server or whatever that needs to be done, or the licensing cost, if you have something, can you just forward me or something?
Sure. I'll forward the Discovery Center link for that, and maybe the blog which I also found some time back. I'll also share the link for that. Maybe you
Because
can go
actually,
through.
we do, we have to go for RFPs and they will ask for the licensing cost and all those tips. So that is again
So
helpful.
here as well, the licensing cost will incur for sure. So
Yeah.
I'll just say Adobe Service Discovery Center, BTP.
Okay.
Okay, so you see Form Service by Adobe. Here is the one.
Hmm.
And here you will find the service catalog. And here, if you try to view that services in your trial account, you won't find it. It's available only in your specific subscription model, CPE and pay as you go. So you see
Okay.
the pricing over here, CPE and pay as you go. This is not available out of the box freeware. It's not there. Okay,
Hmm.
and maybe costing you can refer over here, like what are the
Sure,
costs.
sure, 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 sure. Thank you, thank you. Just can you just if you can just ping me the.
Yeah, I'll share this link into the group, WhatsApp group.
Thank you, thank you. And regarding baddies and enhancements, those remains the same or anything
Yeah.
changed?
No, nothing changed. It's the same. Ultimately, body implementation are ultimately underlying. I mean, are going to get redirected to your classes only. So the
Correct.
way you will find the body, ultimately do the implementation, and that's the thing. But the point is, in your sandbox, you won't find it. In your private cloud, whenever you private cloud is ultimately giving you the same flavor as of your on-premise system.
Correct.
Open it, implement it, and maybe I guess. I mean, a private cloud is the kind of a thing. Maybe when you are working on it, you won't directly get that feeling that you are working on cloud, because you will feel as if it's on-premise for you, because
Mm-hmm.
your entry gate is kind of same. Right.
Correct.
So that's the reason the process of body implementation is also not going to get changed.
And by 2022 version, it will everything will be in editor, correct? I mean, don't need to go to Eclipse or something like that.
Uh, Editor, as in you mean the
Our
SAP GUI
our
editor?
normal GUI, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So anything which is on the CDS or let's just say ref framework,
Editive
even though
editor will be not non editable in 2022 also. We have to go through Eclipse.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I thought by 2022 or 2023 it will be editable, edit yeah, in our normal GUI.
No, 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 no. So normal GUI going to get obsolete anyway. ADT is
Okay,
the future.
okay,
The sooner you get comfortable with ADT, it would be good for you.
okay. I thought by 2022 it will
No,
be
no, no.
totally
No,
on GUI.
No. GUI does not have that many features. The SDK that's supporting all those things, they are now investing more on your Eclipse ADT and the BAS Business Application Studio for all other
Mm-hmm.
developments. But
Mm-hmm.
SAP GUI is only being used for either limited functionality or transactional based users who are using those transactions and maybe more comfortable with that. So those things are continued. I mean, those things will be there, but going forward, the new things are anyway moving out to ADT and BS for sure from a developer's perspective.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, thanks so much. Thank
Okay, yeah.
you.
Thanks, then. Thanks, everyone. We'll see each other on next Saturday. Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Sumit. Bye.
Thanks for
Thank you, Sumit.